Taehyung arrived at the tender place, all eyes, unwillingly, turned towards him as they noticed his luxurious car. He stepped out of the car in style, pushed his hair back, and took a burger from the car before heading straight to the tender spot. For Taehyung, this kind of attention was normal, and he ignored everyone as he walked inside. After seeing so many people gathered for the tender, he said, "So many people have submitted tenders for such a small project. Maybe it's because King and Sky Group were interested in it." He took a bite of the burger and casually said, "No matter how many people have applied for this tender, it's going to be mine." As Taehyung reached YN, he saw that she was visibly troubled about the results of the tender. She had crossed her fingers with both hands. Taehyung sat next to her and offered her a burger, but YN didn't respond. Seeing this, Taehyung continued eating his burger and said, "Relax, Miss YN. Perhaps you're forgetting that we've entrusted this project to Korea's most reliable online insider influencer company. We've never lost at anything." Hearing this, YN said, feeling disappointed, "You don't understand, Mr. Taehyung. This project is not just any project for me. If I lose this, you have no idea what I'll lose." At that moment, YN's father, Mr. Park, and Jaeon entered the hall and sat beside her. Jaeon looked at YN and asked, "Do you remember your promise, YN?" As he said this, YN glared at him with hatred. Jaeon, looking into her eyes, said, "Show all the hatred you want, YN. Because once we lose this tender, I will shatter your pride completely." Before Taehyung could say anything, the people who were supposed to announce the tender results entered the hall. As they began, Taehyung thought to himself, "It's not me, it's the tender that will answer." As the announcement started, silence spread across the hall. The person announcing the results said, "The company that submitted the best tender is the King Kingdom." Upon hearing this, Taehyung and YN were shocked. Neither of them knew which new company had surpassed King Group and taken the tender. Taehyung, who had been calm until that moment, began scratching his head, unable to understand why his tender was not selected. As soon as the announcement of King Group winning the tender was made, Jaeon and Mr. Park started celebrating. They stood up and began to leave. Mr. Park, as he was leaving, said to YN, "Be ready by 7 p.m. and come home. I've arranged a little family gathering for you and Jaeon." After saying this, he left. Taehyung, whose mind was spinning trying to understand how he had lost such an important tender, suddenly received a phone call. He answered without checking the number. On the other end, a voice said, "You remember your bet, don't you, Tae?" Hearing this voice, Taehyung was surprised and said, "Is that you, Grandpa? Did you just pick up the phone without looking?" "Well, forget that. I called you because of the bet you made with me." "What bet, Grandpa?" "Right now, I'm in a huge problem. Because of some King Kingdom company, I had to face defeat. I still don't understand how they got the tender. To win it at a lower price, they would have had to take a loss on this project, and no one is stupid enough to lose money just to take this tender. It's possible that person is getting something bigger in return from that loss," Mr. Kim said, with a thoughtful tone. Upon hearing this, Taehyung, now suspicious, asked, "How do you know this? Could it be that you're behind this?" "You're right, I am the one behind it. You see, There are many small companies within King Group that I can work with, and I can win tenders without anyone noticing. But whatever happens, a loss is a loss, son. You've lost the bet, and now you'll have to marry according to my terms, and that too, as soon as possible, Mr. Kim told Taehyung. While these two were talking, YN was fuming with rage. She turned towards Taehyung and, as she approached him, said, "You said this tender would be ours at any cost. So, what happened? How did it end up with someone else?" Hearing YN's angry voice over the phone, Mr. Kim immediately asked Taehyung, "Who is this girl shouting at you, Tae? Is she your girlfriend?" Hearing this, Taehyung quickly hung up, feeling flustered. He looked at YN, confused, and thought to himself, "How do I explain to her that my grandfather just won the tender by making a loss to fulfill his bet?" Miss YN, please listen to me," Taehyung said, but YN ignored him. She grabbed his hand and dragged him to her car, saying, "There's nothing left to listen to now, V. Because of you, I'm stuck in this mess, and now you're going to get me out of it." Taehyung, still confused, asked, "What mess, Miss YN? I don't understand. What mess have you gotten into because of me?" But YN didn't answer. She just drove the car straight to V's office. Once they arrived, she brought some papers and handed them to V. She said, "Because of you, I couldn't get that tender. Now, you have to sign this deal with me." As V read the papers, he was shocked. He looked at her in surprise and said, "What is all this, Miss YN? You want me to sign a contract marriage with you?" To be continued. If you like the story, let me know in the comments. If you didn't, let me know that too. The next part will come once I get comments on this one. Until then, goodbye.